Welcome to another episode of FemFlex Friday. I'm Whitney Jones here with my co-host Lenda Murray, and today's special guest is the one and only Michelle Hurst, who is a phenomenal bikini athlete, but more importantly, she has absolutely excelled at the master's level, not just the open level, but at the master's level, which is not easy to do. So Michelle, thank you for joining us. We've been very impressed with, just discussing your competitive career, and you were impressed with one fact.
I mean, the fact that you are the first, you won the very first Masters in Pittsburgh, the first, the inaugural, and you took that home. And you turned pro the previous year at the North American. Wow. So give us your story, because you definitely are a master.
A master at your craft.
At competing.
Oh, okay. So a little bit of background. I actually got into bodybuilding in 2012. My boyfriend at the time was kind of playing around the idea of competing as a men's physique competitor. And I said, oh my gosh, what is this bodybuilding? So I looked it up, looked at bikini, and I said, oh, I want to look like these amazing girls. But I don't know if I can actually get on stage.
Really?
So, yes.
The stage is what scared you. You liked the physique.
Correct.
It was the stage. Okay.
Correct. So, but then I started training, I started dieting, and I started doing all this stuff, and I thought to myself, if I'm doing all of this work, why not do it? So that's kind of how it started. The first show I did was I think it was actually called the Muscle Contest in San Francisco before they turned into Muscle Production or Muscle Sport Production.
Yes.
That was in 2012. I competed in both Masters and Open. I did win my Masters class and took the overall in Masters and placed third in the Open division. And then competed, I believe, my fourth national show was North Americans, and I received my pro card in 2013.
Okay. So you've been competing since 2012.
Correct.
Wow.
10 years.
Were you lifting into sports or anything prior to that?
I was martial arts. I did martial arts. I'm a black belt in mixed martial arts.
She just suddenly slides. I was a black belt. Just no big deal. Black belt. By the way. Yeah.
So, but I couldn't do both just because it was just so hard in my body, and getting beat up in martial arts, and you can't really go on stage with bruises all over you. So,
True.
I chose bodybuilding.
Well, then that really explains the next question, because when I look at bikini competitors, and then especially when I look at a master in bikini, and I think, wow, to be at past the age of 35, right? Because women we carry our bad weight usually in our lower half of our body, and with bikini, it's all about your glutes and your
tiny waist.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, a lot of women start going south in their early 20s. Their body starts to change. So I'm like, how do you maintain? You had to really always maintain your weight and and some sense of some athletic to have that tush where you could turn around and just look fabulous. I mean, really.
Right.
I mean, because I know my glutes. I mean, of course I was competing then, but still your tush looks different in your 30s than in your 20s.
Oh,
and
definitely.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So tell us your background as far as did you always say a size, what size are you?
Probably a 2.
See? Wow. So you just never deviated from that.
I go up to maybe a 4, and then that's when I start getting uncomfortable. Just because I'm so, short that any added more weight would just be
Yeah,
it just doesn't look right.
Yes.
Wow.
But that's good, because you do want to maintain a healthy physique year-round without getting too extreme. We see girls a lot who gain 30 pounds in the off-season, not because they're trying to put on muscle or bulk, but they just didn't know how to properly reverse diet, And you know, that is a problem that you see a lot in our industry.
Definitely.
And sometimes if you make that mistake once, you never make it again.
Yes.
Sadly, you continue that repetitive step. But you always have looked great.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I remember way back, you know, just kind of reviewing shows, not even believing you were masters. I thought there's no way somebody needs to card her, because your physique has always been so impressive and so beautiful. And it's not easy to maintain, but as you brought up, we have to, as older athletes, compete against some athletes who are in their 20s.
Definitely.
Especially in the bikini division.
Yes.
So when Masters came about, I'm curious what your thoughts are, because there's a lot of athletes who refuse to ever compete in the Masters division, even though they're the age to do so. And there's this misconception as, oh, it's going to age me. Oh, I just don't want to be with the old ladies. When there's other people, and I know you personally, that you embrace it and love it.
I do.
But what was that, an instant thing, or have you kind of slowly come to love the
No, I
Masters?
mean, from, you know, the start of me competing, I always said, okay, well, there's a 35 and over. I was, you know, 37 when I started competing, so why not do it, right? And the way I see it, if I can compete against girls that are in 20, you know, in their 20s and place amongst them, then, you know, like,
and
it's a great thing.
And I noticed that from your competition history, how many open competitions you competed in, and you did exceptionally great. Top 5, top 10. Like a bikini stacked.
Oh, yes.
The numbers are always like 30 girls. Right. You guys are deep. And so without question, you hold your own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a great thing to compete, you know, with the Masters competitor and also in the open division.
So do you usually choose shows that have, if you're going to do the Masters, do you usually go, okay, I'm going to do open and Masters, or do you pick shows going, I really only want to do the shows that have that master option as well, just so you have 2 chances to place, step on stage?
Not necessarily. I mean, if there's a Masters show that I really want to do and there's an open division, then I'll compete in both. But then if there's an open show that I really want to do and no Masters, I'm still going to do it. So
That's great, though. You have this no fear mentality, which is the best way to go into our sport. You do it because of what you want, what you feel, and not focused on that outcome.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you're really, for me, it's like seeing how my improvements are, you know, like from show to show. You know, like I compare myself, you know, to myself from my previous show rather than somebody else. So
yeah, you know what I'm impressed with. In the beginning, as a promoter, and I remember when they said, okay, you need to have Grandmaster's bikini, and I'm already at that point where I think I was like in my 50s, and so in my vision of like bikini and the way the girls move, right? And I thought, and I tried to visualize a master or a Grandmaster moving, because a lot of the movements were very like flirtatious, and I was like, okay, and so, but man, like, so that's impressive. So you do that. I guess a competitor, they don't have to, you have to come in with your own style. What would you say to those out there that want to compete in bikini, they're over 35?
I just say, you know, just own it, right? Like, go out there, be confident. It doesn't matter if you're competing with 20-year-olds or, you know, 40-year-olds. It's you're there to like showcase your best, right? So have fun with it and just like, you know, really, you know, don't care about anything else.
Just be natural, be yourself. Find your own style.
Work your own vibe.
Don't copy somebody's posing routine, right? Like, I think a lot of girls tend to do that as well because it doesn't showcase them. It looks, you know, fake. Like it's like you want to show your own personality instead of I watch a YouTube video and this girl is, you know, flipping her hair and moving her hands this way, and I have to do the same thing. Because I get a lot of posing clients that tell me that it's like, oh, should I do this with my hands because this so and so did it? I said, well, does it come naturally to you? If it doesn't come naturally, don't do it.
It's going to look forced on stage,
definitely.
100%.
So tell us about your training program as far as what you do resistance training, weight training?
I train, mostly weight training. I do a lot of, obviously legs, glutes, hamstrings. I train it 3 times a week. I love lifting heavy. So, like Whitney will tell you, like,
we work together, so I'm like, yeah, let's say no.
It's like, you can put me in the weight room and lift us heavy, lift heavy. I love it. But if you try to tell me to do some circuits, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die.
I threw circuits at her recently, and she said, no, I'm not doing this.
And that's really, like, that was my question and thinking, because I see now, like, a lot of people do the circuits and then jumping up on boxes, plyometrics, and all this thing. And I'm like, okay, like, because I know, I watch some things and I think, oh, my knees hurt right away. As soon as I see that, and that's,
But I definitely think it's necessary to, to really shape your body. You can't just lift heavy. So, I've had to adjust that mentality. Like, I can't just, like, keep throwing the weights, right? I have to do all the other things, like functional training and, to get my conditioning up to par. So.
And also, especially we see it a lot with bikini athletes, and you can speak to this as well, because it's just lifting, and it's all glute focused.
Right.
But your lower body is what's being showcased on stage as a bikini athlete. And ideally, you want to have that athletic-looking shape in your legs. That doesn't just come from lifting.
No.
So it's the training, it's the conditioning, it's the cardio. And changing it up with circuits helps shape the legs differently so they have that athletic look.
Okay.
And I know Michelle well enough to know that cardio gets so much easier, and for everybody, right? Once you can kind of get that endurance up.
Right.
And adding in HIIT circuits is one of the best ways to quickly get your endurance under wraps. And even though she hates it, she does it. She kills it.
I mean, it's like, I just have to do it. Like, at the end of the day, I want to go on stage looking my best. And this is going to help me get there, then I'm going to do it.
Okay. Well, let's take a quick commercial break, and we will be back with Michelle Hurst to find out more tips on her training.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
And we're back with Michelle Hurst, professional IFBB bikini competitor. Let's get some tips. Top 3 tips or exercises that you go to get this beautiful physique.
For lower body, like hip thrust is definitely a must.
Hip thrust.
Yes, like 3 times a week. I love sumo deads. Sumo deadlifts is one of my favorite lifts to do. RDLs are great. Lunges, it definitely shapes the body and your glutes, but it's one of my least favorites.
Is it one of your least favorites?
Yes.
And so why?
I don't know. It's just like maybe it's because I just can't lift as heavy when I'm doing it. So.
Yeah, you like that number. You like seeing that number on there going, oh, I'm making those improvements. But they say usually the ones that you despise
are the
ones that you need the most.
Exactly. Definitely.
Yeah.
And so do you do anything what about abdominals? Do you guys, I rarely hear, is it just like with bikini, just diet and you're not trying to get, the 6-pack?
Well, I don't do any weighted ab movements. Vacuums have been great. I've been doing those every morning. I usually just focus on my upper and lower abdomen. I don't do anything. I don't
for the intercostals,
obliques, anything like that, because I feel like it's your waist just gets a little thicker. And with bikini, you need to have that tiny waist. And for myself, it's like my waist is not that small, so I have to really work to make sure that it doesn't look big on stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question, kind of a little off topic, but in regards to how you were back in your 20s, so Michelle in her 20s versus Michelle now, how different are you in regards to your physical ability and like being in the gym, exercising, as well as your mental state?
Physical ability, I'm definitely in a way better shape now than I was in my 20s. I mean, if you saw what I looked like in my 20s, I was just like this skinny girl with like no muscle, right? And just, because I didn't eat right, I didn't go to the gym, it was just cardio. Everyone says, oh, if you just do cardio, because that's what's gonna get you that, small. But then but your body composition just looks kind of blah.
Skinny fat.
Skinny fat, exactly. As far as my mentality, I'm definitely much more driven, much more focused and disciplined now than I was in my 20s. I mean, I partied a lot. I'm sure a lot of the, people out there in their 20s did the same thing. But, as you get older, you have all these responsibilities and you just...
So there are benefits to being a little older.
Yeah,
so for anyone out there that's 20,
That's right. Yeah,
you'll just get more wise in your years.
I completely agree. I mean, I look at competing my first time around in the early 90s, and I retired for 5 years, and then I came back, and when I look at my last 2 Olympias, and I was over the age of 40, that person, I was so much wiser and smarter.
And healthier.
Totally, without question. So I think there are great benefits.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And so many people say that, oh, you look so young, right? Well, obviously this helps that.
It does.
Eating right, exercising. We can't prevent aging, unfortunately, but we can control how we look to a certain extent. Now, granted, I think if someone said, I look better now than I did when I was 20 because definitely aged. I know they're lying, but I absolutely feel 1,000 times better. A lot of girls, they're cardio bunnies in their 20s because there's the intimidation in the gym, not understanding kind of where to even start. But I feel like it's changing with so many powerful, strong women being role models these days. We have an opportunity to change that, educate, and get people on that right path.
Yeah, and it's so cool. I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that I'm sitting with the two women in our industry. You're both pros, bikini and fitness, and in most of our heads, people will automatically think to compete as a bikini competitor, you have to be in your 20s, right? And to flip and do what you do, you have to be in your 20s. And you guys are at the top. You've proven that to be wrong.
Yeah, it's more of a mindset, I think. And my maturity level, let's be honest, I'm like a 12. So I don't think I've ever aged past that.
I love it.
That helps.
I love it. I love it totally.
So now, Michelle, sorry.
No.
Do you feel pressure, like when you're doing a show that has open and masters? What's your mindset? Do you feel more pressured that, oh gosh, I must place as a masters? Do you change your posing? Like, what is your process going into competing and stepping on stage when it's open versus masters?
Honestly, I don't really change anything as far as, posing. I mean, I just go out there and do my best and showcase my physique the best, in my best of my abilities. I do think it's a little tougher to compete in masters, though, than open, to me anyways, because these masters competitors, I mean, they look amazing, right? I mean, it's just their muscle bellies are fuller, they're just harder, it's just a different look. And I think when people say, oh, you place in masters, but you didn't place in open, it's like, but you have to kind of take a look at who shows up in those, in that, in the open division, right? If they're coming in a little softer than you, and that's the majority, of course that's what they're gonna go for. But with masters, you're kind of more in an even playing field, I think, because we all have kind of like that muscle maturity. So.
Okay. Yeah. So from competition to competition, do you always compete in open and masters? Like if they have that available?
If they have it available, yes, I will do it.
Yeah, that makes all the sense. I know I would do the same.
I mean, I'm already there. Why not?
Right, exactly.
Right.
More time on stage, enjoy it.
And I see some that don't, only a few that don't. So do you feel that the judges. They've seen you in Masters, and usually the Masters divisions goes prior to the Open. Do you feel that they can judge you? They do judge properly and not look at you as a Masters. Like, okay, she placed, you know, even if you win the Masters, do you see some discrepancy ever?
Not
I've
really.
heard some people say that, some Masters say that.
I don't think so, just because, like I said previously, like if you look at the Open division versus the Masters division, the physiques are so different, right? So if you have, like, say, 10 Masters competitor that have pretty similar in physiques, then it's easier for the judges to judge it, right?
Okay.
Now, you go into that same show with, like, say, 25 Masters and Open bikini competitors. Now you're looking at a completely different physique across the board.
Yeah.
So, and they have to judge you based on who you're competing with.
Makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
Now, as a Masters athlete, what are some of the challenges you face compared to maybe stuff that someone in their 20s would not be having to deal with?
I think the hormones, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You know, things are. It moves a little slower now. I feel like, you know, like maybe just a couple years ago, I just see my body just like responding slower than it did, you know, when I was, you know, even at 38, 39. You know, I'm 47 now.
Wow, you look
That's amazing. I know.
And I love
47. Okay.
Yeah. I love it.
That's awesome.
So I think that's the thing that I, you know, struggle with the most. Like, my body's just changing. But at the same time, you know, you just have to, maybe I need a longer prep because my body is changing, right? So.
Impressive.
And to that note, too, at the national stage, when you see these Masters competitors, some that are 60 in bikinis,
Right.
too, it's amazing to me. And every year, Sandy will joke, oh, we need to start like carding these Masters athletes because I'll look at them and think, there is no way this person is 40. Oh, there's no way she's 50. There's no way she's 60.
Right.
And they are killing the game. I mean,
That's
it's impressive.
actually a funny story when you say carding, because my very first, not the first Master show, I think it was like the third one that I did. I think it was in LA. So they looked at me there, because at that time it was like 40 and over, I believe, right? And they said, you're not 40. So they did card me.
Really? That's the best compliment ever.
But, you know, they didn't just single me out. They like, can we see your ID? And then they started asking everybody in the Masters. They're just like, here you go.
That's the one time you're like, gladly.
Yeah, here you go.
Yes. Wow. So with there not being yet, and I know they're talking about Masters Olympia, you know, they had it for the men, and they're considering that. What's the incentive? Because obviously the Olympia is not there for bikini yet, or women's bodybuilding, or what motivates you?
I mean, I think just getting on that Olympia stage is motivation enough. You know, I think, you know, my first goal was to, you know, get nationally qualified, and then, okay, you know what? I'm nationally qualified. I want to turn pro. When you're at the pro level, like, what's the next step? What's your goal? Of course, it's that stage. So that's definitely like something you want to strive for. You know.
Okay.
So if they have a Masters Olympia and they have the bikini division, are we going to see you up there?
I sure hope so.
I think so too. I think you're a prime candidate.
Yes,
so
you are.
we're putting that on the block right now, everyone.
Yes.
Now you've got to follow through.
Yes.
If that's the case. But we don't have any details yet.
Yeah, no details yet on
but it could
that.
be happening.
But I definitely know
exciting.
it's coming.
Yeah.
It will. I mean, yeah, the numbers are just so
For sure.
great.
Yes.
There's a lot more Masters competitors now when I first, you know, since starting in the sport. So.
Yeah. It's like there's bikinis, you know, increasing in the number of athletes. Wellness now huge. Classic physique huge. Well, the Masters athletes, I mean, they're coming out and they're showing up looking legit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I think it's just a matter of logistics as far as the number of competitors and having like the date and the place and all of that. And we know that as promoters of shows, that all of that we have to do to make it happen.
First.
Yeah, you got to figure that out first. Yeah. So what are your plans for this year?
This year, planning on competing in next month. So pushing for it. I think about 6.5 weeks out now.
Okay.
And then from there, we'll see. You know, once I start competing, once I get that first show, I kind of just keep going.
Okay.
So I'm definitely competing this year.
Okay.
I just don't know how many shows yet.
That's good.
Which is usually a great approach, I feel, for athletes. Because, you know, we've talked to judges before and, you know, trying to have healthy preps.
Right.
Do you feel, have you had years where you had your set strategy for the year and then you had to completely change it because body wasn't responding or life threw you curves?
Yeah.
And if so, how did that affect you? If you knew this was the plan, the plan didn't happen as you originally laid out.
You know, you just kind of roll with the punches. I mean, you can't force your body to keep going if it's just not there, if it's just not responding, because you're gonna do more harm than good. I learned that, you know, in 2018, 19. I think I competed in 15 shows in 13 months.
Wow.
It was just and there's 5 international shows. I remember coming home from, I believe, Colombia one day, and then the following day I'm flying to Japan.
Wow.
So it was just, you know, like I was all over the place, and my husband finally said, you know what, you need a break. So, and I, you know, and at that point, I knew my body needed rest.
Okay.
You know.
Well, we will take a quick break and come back and talk about rest and your life, your personal life, and all that good stuff.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else, every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, you know I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
And we're back with IFBB Bikini Pro Michelle Hurst, who's given us some insight into her competing career, as well as insights into being a Masters bikini champ. She's won multiple shows. She's truly killing it at the Masters level. And you'd mentioned right before the break, a year that you did, well, more than a year, 13 months, and you did 15 shows. Some of that was international travel. So 2 questions for you. How do you find balance with your life, with competing, with traveling, and you're married?
Right.
And then how has being an athlete and competing benefited and also had some challenges for you in your marriage?
Really, you know, balancing everything, it's tough, but it's definitely doable, right? So it's actually, you know, I learned to really time out my days, you know, in order to do this, because I still, you know, obviously need to spend time with my husband, spend time with family, friends, and train, coach my athletes. I mean, there's so many things going on in a day. So it's just really trying to figure out, okay, you know, if I have to get up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to do my cardio and do my training, then I'm going to do that. So the rest of the day I can dedicate to, you know, working and my husband. But it's just really juggling everything.
Being organized.
Yeah, just organized.
Did he travel with you when you would do some of these shows, or do you like to do shows completely by yourself?
We've actually done shows together, and he's traveled for most shows, but then there are shows where we have to split up because he has athletes competing at another show, and usually if I'm competing, I have some athletes competing with me at that show, so we kind of split that up. When I was traveling internationally, I think the only one he went to was the Philippines one.
The one you won.
Yes. And the rest, he wanted to go, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
He had to stay home and everything else.
Well, and traveling gets so expensive
It
too,
does.
especially when you're doing multiple shows in a short period of time.
Yeah,
So it's
it does.
kind of hard if you have a friend, family member, spouse that's traveling with you. I mean, costs skyrocket pretty quickly.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's where you got to plan out the budget for your whole season.
Yeah. So with the number of shows that bikini competitors normally do in a year, and most of the time they're doing the number because they're trying to qualify via points.
Right.
So and you're talking about the travel and all of that. How do you how do you feel about the point system and the feeling? Because you said that when you won the Philippines, something changed.
Right.
Right? In regards to the points. Can you explain that?
So I think it was the top 3 in points gets to go in Olympia or something like I can't even remember, but something like that. So at that point, it's that's why, compete, get all these points to get there. But at some point, your body just gets tired, right?
Sure.
So I couldn't keep going, So
Well, that's smart athlete.
Yeah. I mean, because it is tough for your division because it's a constant point race. There's tons of shows.
Right.
So you could be the points leader.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, be knocked down literally in 10th place in points in a matter of weeks, especially with the tiered shows these days.
Right.
So it makes it difficult.
With the tiered shows based on that show that you compete in that you won.
Yes.
So if you win a second tier show or third tier, that's not confirmation that you're going to the Olympia?
No, because the points drops, right?
Yep.
So whoever has the most points gets to go.
And it's per division. So for anyone who's watching and may be confused, the whole points race to get to Olympia as a pro athlete is all on NPC News Online. You can find that at the Olympia website as well. It lists it, but it is. I mean, it's tough. A lot of bikini athletes have to run year round and then hope that their bodies can hold up for the big show at the very end of the year.
Yeah.
Going, oh man, I hope I look good now.
Right. Because, what's the point of you do get to the Olympia, but then your body is just tapped out, and you're just
tired.
okay, what are you going to bring on that stage? It's going to be worse than what you brought your last show.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
completely get that. So what advice would you give to promoters to assist, because I know my show in Savannah where we will have Masters Bikini. And this will be the first where we have pros, 4 pro open divisions, and also the Masters. Is there advice that you can give me to assist you as a competitor, as a Masters Bikini competitor? Because we were talking about the money, because I noticed that you don't qualify for the Olympia by winning the Masters. There's a title,
right?
And I don't know if money is that important as far as, because a couple of I've heard they've actually had it where I can't remember how they tried to fund, because that's always the challenge, one of the challenges, and the timing. Yeah. We want to I want to make sure that we give you the platform to compete, and I'm a master, so to me, you guys are super important in giving you that platform.
I mean, as far as when I compete, I don't look at the prize money to begin with.
I didn't think so.
So that to me is a non-issue. It's just, again, it's like going out there and winning a show, and just really beating my last physique is always my goal. People always say, "Oh, how can you be so still happy even though you didn't win, you got second or because I know that I did better than my last show." And you can't really and you can't always compare from show to show either, right? Because it's who shows up again. Right. So as far as incentives, I mean,
well, that's good to know. It really is, because I have mad respect for all competitors, and especially masters. And so when we added the Masters division, my thought was, okay, I want to make sure that if first, second, and third, place and I'm giving them money, I'm not going to give you something that's, in my opinion, disrespectful. You know, but what I know I can do is give you that platform, make sure that the judges give you the equal amount of time.
Right.
You know, and I know where things can change. I mean, we even know that from, let's say with the bikini competitors, most of the time they have to wait to the very end of the show, the NPC, because you guys draw the audience, you put the seats there, and then when you know that, then you understand that. And it's not a disrespectful thing, it's just that the majority of the audience, they're there, they want to see
the bikini division's big. What advice do you have for new athletes who are looking to get their start in our industry? Maybe things that you wish you knew, or fails that you had the first few years where you thought, gosh, I need to make sure others don't do this. Because you do, you coach athletes now. So what advice do you have for new amateurs?
My advice is, don't get yourself into something that you can't follow through, right? So your commitment level has to be there 100%. You can't just say, oh, I kind of want to do, I'm kind of interested. I kind of like this sport. No, it's an expensive sport. I mean, let's just face it. Financially, you're traveling to shows, hair, makeup, suit, tan, registration. It all adds up. So if you're going to put yourself in that situation financially, then you better have 100% commitment. And really, it's just follow through. Don't just half-ass anything.
I like it. I mean, it's valuable advice, and you've obviously done really well in this industry and continue to do so. And maybe we will see you soon on the Master Olympia stage once all the details are worked out. But we appreciate you joining us. Again, this is Michelle Hurst, IFBB Bikini Pro and master at her craft as a master athlete. Lenda Murray and I are here, and thank you for joining us for another episode of FemFlex Friday.